各位朋友，大家好，歡迎收睇人氣馬場啦。其實要喺香港發展咧，的確唔容易㗎。不過呢位騎師咧，一嚟到香港即刻贏，可惜咧之後咧佢就遇上一個意外，就休息咗幾個月啊。不過好彩咧，佢翻嚟之後咧，依然交出好好嘅成績啦。結果咧就以9場賽事咧完成咗佢咧首個喺香港嘅賽季啊。今年佢更加帶埋佢嘅 family 嚟到香港，究竟佢係邊個咧？就係呢個嘉利啦。Hello, Luke. Welcome back to Hong Kong. And it was your first season last season, and with 9 winners. And can you tell us how do you feel?
Yeah, good. It was a hard start to my Hong Kong career. I came after 6 months of the season, and I rode a winner straight away,
yes,
which was very positive, and everything was looking up. And then I had a fall within the next week, so I had a couple of months off and had to start again, and only really got to ride for 3 months of the season. So I was happy enough with how I finished the season off, but just through bad luck, it could have been much better.
Actually, there's a mixed bittersweet feeling because as a newcomer, to win on the first ride actually is a perfect start. But a week later, you had an incident in the trial and sidelines for at least 6 weeks, and you hurt your back. And I'm sure it's quite frustrating because your family is in Australia and you have to face the pressure on your own, right?
Yeah, it was a challenge. It was quite hard to get my head around staying here on my own without my family support. But I really did. I hadn't been here long enough. I'd been out of quarantine for a week, so I hadn't spent any real time in Hong Kong, and I felt that if I went home then through injury, then I might not have got the opportunity to come back. So I stuck it out, and I'm glad I did, because then I was able and lucky enough to get a contract for this year, and I'm looking forward to riding the whole year out.
I think that you have the key elements to be successful in Hong Kong because of your never give up spirit. So it's just like even you had some incident and you had a bad experience, but you never give up and even take the chance and to show how good you are. And so I think on the 4th of May, and then you taste your first double. So you tell some press about it, the feeling is just like, oh, it's the biggest win ever you have. So I'm sure that the procedures and the process that you go through has been tough, but at the end it's a perfect ending, right?
Yeah, I was very excited. I've had falls before and injuries and time off, and like you said, being away from my family in a new country, on my own, it made it quite hard for me, and it was very rewarding when I did get that first winner back, and then lucky enough to get 2, and especially riding for the master trainer in John Size, whom even though he was from Australia, I'd never met him until I'd came to Hong Kong. So I was very excited, and yeah, it did give me a great thrill and a good kick, and helped me get through to the end of the season, and then I had some more success along the way.
Yes. Actually, you have a quite interesting background. I think you're coming from Tasmania, right? And then you build up your career in Victoria, and then you stay in a town for 17 years. Is it correct?
Yeah, correct. I started my riding when I was 15 in Tasmania. My father was a jockey and trained a couple of horses.
Yes.
So I started under him, and I was still in high school and riding in races when I first started. But I didn't stay. I only stayed for a couple of months in Tasmania and then moved to Victoria, because the racing there is that's the pinnacle in Australia is Sydney and Melbourne.
Yeah.
So I moved there at quite a young age, and yeah, more or less, I only spent the first couple of months in Tasmania at the start of my career. I've gone back and ridden from time to time in Tasmania, and it will still always be home. But yeah, I've forged a career in Victoria.
Yes. And is it because of there's so many jockeys, new jockeys and established jockeys in Melbourne? So it's similar to in Hong Kong. It's very competitive and never easy to get support. But you're quite at a young age. You already land your first Group 1 in a Tourette handicap in 2003. But since then, it seems a little bit quiet moment. What's the reasons behind?
Yeah, look, I was quite successful as an apprentice, and when I first became a senior rider, I was very successful and rode that Group 1 winner. And then not long after, I had a bad fall and broke my neck, and had a few sort of ongoing injuries there for a while, and thought about giving the game away. And I'd been brought up in it. Like I said, my father was a jockey, and my whole family are sort of interested in racing, so it was something that was too hard to give away. But then I got the travel bug and travelled, and never really, probably didn't take my riding that seriously through my 20s, and was sort of in and out of Australia, and always took long holidays and had good fun, as probably a lot of 20-year-olds do. So I never applied myself that well, and it wasn't until I was sort of in my 30s, I suppose, that I knuckled down. The turning point, I would say, was probably meeting my wife.
Wow.
And at the same time, I started riding for a guy who's been he's been a mentor to me since, in Tony McAvoy, and I became his stable rider, and that was really the turning point in my career.
Yes, I think it's just like everyone needs opportunities. When you meet the right person, and when we receive the opportunity, we make use of it, and then we can gradually build up our reputation. So before you meet Tony, that you're riding quite a lot of countries in Asia, right?
Yes, yeah, I had a few stints, short stints in Malaysia.
Yeah.
I had a stint in Singapore, and I did a few stints in Mauritius, which I really enjoyed, but it's hard going back and forth and stop and start, going back to Australia and trying to re-establish yourself. Yes. And look, I wouldn't say that I always went home and applied myself that well, and I probably didn't make the most of a lot of the opportunities that came my way at the time, but as I've got older, I've learnt a little bit and matured a bit.
This time I'm sure that you will have a better season, because this time you bring your family here, and then they're going to support you along the races during the race day. So can you introduce their names to our audience?
Yeah, I have my two daughters. My eldest daughter, she's 5, and her name's Mia. And my younger daughter, she's 2, and her name's Miley. So yeah, the 2 M's. Yeah, they're beautiful little girls, and I think Miley, the younger one's more interested in the horses than Mia. Mia's more into the dancing and the arts, but yeah, they're beautiful children, and I love them dearly.
So there's a funny question: if just like which circumstances would be more scareful, just like more scare? If your daughter bring you a boyfriend, or if she tell you that she wants to be a jockey?
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to either of those scenarios, but yeah, that's a very good question. I'll have to go home and think about that one, but yeah, I'm not looking forward to either.
You have two daughters, so you have to go through twice.
Yes, yeah, maybe one will be the rider, and one will have the boyfriend.
So coming back to this season, so any expectation of your do you have any target or any races do you want to win?
Look, I would obviously the Hong Kong Derby would be. I would love to win that, much the same as I would love to win a major at home, or a Melbourne Cup at home, or I've never won a Launceston Cup in my hometown in Tassie, so I'd love to do that. But yeah, definitely here would be a Hong Kong Derby. I suppose on the international meetings, any sort of winner would be great at one of those meetings. But yeah, I've seen how even though with the restricted crowds this year, I've seen how passionate people were about the Hong Kong Derby. It would be a special race to win.
Yes, and also I think because of the past few years that you just like, I would say it's kind of a lately maturing type horse. Just like you build up your name, especially you're winning a lot of Group 1s over the past 3 years. You won 11 Group 1s in a short period of time. You have prepared with a lot of wonderful horses in just like game away. and also, away home.
Yes, and sunlight.
Yes.
Yeah, and yeah, I've had a few handy horses that I've been connected with. Haydock,
Yeah.
yes. So I think that comes with along with riding for Tony McAvoy, and you know, he was so instrumental in putting me on better horses in better races and getting that exposure, and then with that flowed other good rides in good races, and you know, riding a winner for Godolphin, winning the Blue Diamond for Godolphin and Lee Friedman,
And you love New Handicap.
Anthony Friedman, sorry.
And you love Newmarket Handicap.
Yes, Newmarket Handicap, and you know, so yeah, all that gives you more exposure, and that's probably something that I didn't really push for and work towards when I was younger.
So can you tell us that how you encountered Tony McAvoy? So is it how you get the opportunity?
Yeah, I was lucky actually through a bloodstock agent in Jeffrey Gordon, that I think he does have a bit to do with horses coming back and forth from here at different times. His stepson Nick Ryan, who's a trainer and was a great jockey, and he rode in Hong Kong. Yeah. One of my best friends, and he is actually good friends with Tony McAvoy's main owner. Yeah. And they were looking for a jockey, and he mentioned me and said that I was probably just floating along and was a bit of a wasted talent at the time. Yes. And that's how it all started, and I just worked as hard as I could, and slowly gained the confidence of not only Tony McAvoy but Wayne Mitchell, his main owner, and it snowballed from there. Yes.
What horse racing brings you the most?
I suppose a sense of being horse racing. It's been something that I have been involved in my whole life since I was a little boy, and for as long as I have any memories, I was at the stables or around horses, and yeah, that's horse racing's who I am. That's who people recognise me as, and that's where I will always be. Without horse racing, I wouldn't be the person I am.
Thank you very much, Luke, and it was a wonderful chat, and I wish you all the best, winning more races and even the Hong Kong Derby in the future.
Thanks very much for having me.